The 2016 SBE National Membership Meeting Netcast is brought to you by the generous financial support of these SBE sustaining members. AC Video Solutions, versatile audio-video engineering and consulting services. Blackmagic Design, leading the creative video revolution. DTS HD Radio. HD Radio, a new receiver is sold every 3.5 seconds. Learn more at hdradio.com. DVEO, Digital Video Extraordinaire. Micronet Communications, communications consulting since 1983. The following is a special presentation of the Society of Broadcast Engineers.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the annual meeting of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. We welcome those of you attending the national meeting here in Columbus, Ohio, and those of you joining us by our live internet webcast. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize a number of our members and guests with us today. We have 4 members who have served this organization as national presidents. Gentlemen, please stand as I introduce you. Our immediate past president is Joe Snelson of Las Vegas, Nevada, who served as president from 2013 to 2015. Ralph Hogan of Tempe, Arizona, who served as president from 2011 to 2013. Vinny Lopez of Syracuse, New York, who served as president from 2009 to 2011. Of Overland Park, Kansas, who served as president from 2005 to 2007. Gentlemen, thank you for your past service and for your continued dedication to this society. Thank you. We're also pleased to have with us today Chris Emley, our General Counsel from Silver Spring, Maryland, who has served the society in that capacity since 1980. Thank you, Chris. The hosts of the SBE chapters for this year's national meeting are the 5 chapters of Ohio, which include Youngstown, Northeast Ohio, Toledo, Southwest Ohio, and Central Ohio. And we thank you for your hospitality you've given to us here in this meeting. Thank you. We would also like to recognize John Hovanek of CBS Radio in Cleveland. John is chair of Chapter 70, Northeast Ohio, and has chaired the Ohio Broadcast Engineering Conference Planning Committee. John can't be with us this evening, but we certainly want to thank him for all of his hard work in this area. And our sincere thanks goes to the 15 other members of the Planning Committee for your work to organize the fine conference that has been presented here today. We would also like to recognize the Ohio Association of Broadcasters, the president, Christine Merritt, and Carrie Newton, for without their support and that of the OAB board, this event would not have been possible. So Chris and Carrie, if you're in the room, please stand so that we may thank you. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce members of the National SBE staff who are with us here in Columbus, Ohio. Member Communications Director, Chris Scher. Sustaining Membership Manager, Debbie Hennessy. Certification Director, Megan Clapp. And Executive Director, John Poray. Thank you. Now we're going to be conducting some SBE business, and I would like to introduce our SBE Secretary, Ted Hand, who will deliver his report.
Thank you. Since the membership meeting last April in Las Vegas, the Society of Broadcast Engineers conducted an executive committee meeting on June 4th in Indianapolis. The fall meeting of the Board of Directors was held here last night in Columbus. The next meeting of the executive committee will take place on January 28th, 2017 in Orlando, Florida. The full board will meet on Sunday, April 23rd, 2017 in Las Vegas during the 2017 NAB show. SBE membership on September 30th, 2016 was 4,757, which was 108 fewer than the same point in 2015. The high point of the membership each year is on June 30th, just before non-renewing members are dropped. Members are located in every U.S. state, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam, Saipan, and in 30 other countries. The annual election of 6 of the 12 directors for the National Board of Directors and all 4 officers was conducted this past summer, conducting on August 15th. Those elected will be inducted later during this meeting. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Ted. With the Treasurer's report, please welcome SBE Treasurer Andrea Cummins.
At the end of 2015, SBE had total assets of $1,067,926, a decrease of $65,914 over 2014. Ahead of budget. SBE's savings, per the Society Board-approved financial policy, are designated for maintaining financial stability, revenue production, capital improvements, projects that benefit the Society's membership, and rainy day needs. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Andrea. Membership growth and retention is an important function of our association. To provide us with the results of this year's membership recruitment drive, please welcome SBE Executive Director John Poray, who is filling in today for Membership Chairman Kevin Plum, who could not be with us today.
Thank you, Jerry. The Road to Success was the theme of this year's membership drive, held from March through May. And among the 172 members that joined during that 3-month period were 50 new members that were recruited by 43 different members. Many prizes were donated by the SBE sustaining member companies, along with the SBE. This national meeting in the Ohio Association of Broadcasters Engineering Conference was Art Leberman. Art is from Alameda, California, and he is also the chairman of Chapter 40, and he is with us today. Art, please. Each year, we recognize 2 chapters with the greatest number of members recruited during the recruitment effort. There are 2 winners each year, 1 each for the small and large chapter divisions. This year's winner in the small chapter division is Chapter 32 of Tucson, Arizona. Chapter 32 is chaired by Robert Nimitz. They are not represented here today, so we'll get their award out to them. In the large chapter division, the winner is Chapter 33 of Southwestern Ohio. The chairman is Jim Stitt, and I think Jim is possibly in the room today. Did you make it, Jim? All right. Well, I guess not, but we're going to get his award to him. We have a plaque to present to Jim that he can carry down to his chapter, and so we'll do that here soon. Though we emphasize member recruitment during the 3-month membership drive, new members are welcome anytime during the year, and we encourage all of you to recruit someone you know in our business to become a member who might benefit from it. Already this year, more than 450 new members have joined the Society. We thank all of those who have participated in this year's membership drive. Jerry?
Okay, thank you, John. To bring us up to date on the latest with the SBE certification program, please welcome Certification Committee Chairman Ralph Hogan.
I would like to thank the members of the National Certification Committee for their service. Chris Alexander, Terry Bond, Jim Bernier, Dane Erickson, Doug Garlinger, Hal Neller, Troy Pennington, David Priester, Rick Ryan, Joe Snelson, and Larry Wilkins. Without the dedicated service of these individuals, the certification program would be very difficult to administer and put forward. Yesterday afternoon, the National Certification Committee met for their annual meeting. I am happy to announce the committee approved Georgia Piedmont Technical College as a new SBE certified school. SBE certified schools are two-year programs whose curriculum follows the SBE curriculum guidelines the committee created to coincide with the Certified Broadcast Technologist certification. Upon completing the coursework with a grade B or better, the students can apply for the CBT certification without taking an additional exam. Over the course of 2016, the committee has conducted several beta testing sessions with a number of individuals who are taking various levels of certification exams. The testing allowed the applicants to utilize the internet and notes as well as ebooks on their electronic devices. This is a first for our certification program, and we're still investigating this. The results are encouraging. However, additional data is needed, and I will report back at the April meeting once all the data has been reviewed. In April of this year, the Ennis Foundation, Educational Foundation Trust approved purchase of the new SBE Engineering Handbook for each of the National Certification Committee members. The committee will use this resource to create new questions for the exams and sample test software. The first batch of new questions will make their way into the exams and sample tests over the next few weeks. Finally, a thank you to the local chairman, local chapter certification chairman, who volunteer their time throughout the year. We would not be able to make the National Certification Program happen without their help. And this concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ralph. Continuing education in our business is an absolute must if we are to stay up with the changes in technology. Providing educational opportunities for our members at the local and national level is a big part of what the SBE is all about. With an update on the Society's National Education Program, please welcome Education Committee Chairman Wayne Pacina.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of your SBE Education Committee. Your SBE Education Committee is comprised of your colleagues that share a passion for professional development and education in our profession. We offer a variety of courses ranging from online to in-person delivered classes. I'd like to call your attention particularly to a very vast library of on-demand webinars that exist from past webinars. Those are available to you on your time frame. I'm also pleased to announce that we will be offering what I guess might be described as a holiday special coming up beginning in November 15th through January the 1st, a 20% discount on the majority of those webinars that exist. 2017 is just about upon us, and with that, you can look forward to a new webinar series, RF 101. This is likely to be one of our more popular webinar series. It's also time to think about a regional Ennis workshop in your state convention, your chapters, so now's the time to be booking those for 2017. And then finally, the Education Committee needs your feedback, we need your comment, we need your ideas for programs, we need your expertise to contribute to the professional development activities. Mr. President, that concludes the report from the Education Committee.
Thank you, Wayne. Another important function of the SBE is to be an advocate on behalf of our members in regulatory and legislative matters, where they impact the technical aspects of broadcasting. Here with an update about our advocacy efforts is Joe Snelson, Chairman of our SBE Government Relations Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each year, the SBE Board of Directors adopts legislative goals based on recommendations from its Government Relations Committee, which we call our GRC, General Counsel, and interested members. The plan serves as a guideline for the Society on how it is to focus its resources in the areas of legislation and media regulation that affect our membership. I will review those legislative goals for those that may not be familiar with them. Number 1, to protect and preserve and to maintain the integrity of allocated broadcast and broadcast auxiliary frequency spectrum. Number 2, to protect the designation and capabilities of broadcast engineers from encroachment or abridgment by state, local, and other government agencies. Number 3, to maintain and/or increase the technical expertise within the Federal Communications Commission and to ensure that decisions made by the Commission are based on sound technical investigation and evaluation. And number 4, to pursue such other matters that are brought to the attention of the Government Relations Committee by the members of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, the Board of Directors, and partners of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. The GRC is made up of the following: all members of the Executive Committee, which is made up of the 4 officers of SBE. Appointed to that committee are Wayne Pacina, R.J. Russell, that are board members, and of ex officio members Chris Imlay and John Perret. Other members of the GRC are Ray Benedict, Ralph Hogan, Barry Thomas, and Dennis Wallace. The GRC continues to monitor activities on the regulatory front and currently are watching closely the following items. In March, SBE filed comments regarding the issue of AM noise improvements. In our filing, we asked the FCC to be proactive in looking into this problem and begin steps to reduce the amount of noise generated by utility companies and various types of consumer electronic devices. On June 15, 2016, the FCC released a public notice noting that its Technological Advisory Council, TAC, an advisory group to the FCC operating under the Federal Advisory Committee Act, is investigating changes and trends to the radio spectrum noise floor to determine if there is an increasing noise problem, and if so, the scope and quantitative evidence, such as problems and how a noise study should be performed. The SBE provided responses to the TAC for its investigation in August of this year. Further, the SBE provides insight into the scope and quantitative evidence of the problem and shows that a noise study should be performed by the TAC. You can find a copy of the filing on the SBE website. I would encourage you to look that up if you haven't already. To cover future EAS educational and regulatory issues, President Massey placed EAS activities under the oversight of the Education and Government Relations Committees. Later this year, the chairs of those 2 committees met with President Massey on a teleconference and proposed an expert advisory group to be formed to watch EAS activities in terms of education and, when appropriate, regulatory issues. Input from this group will provide the Education Committee with ideas and recommendations for EAS educational programs that we can provide to our members. The group may also make recommendations for releases to SBE members to keep them updated on EAS issues. Should the group have recommendations regarding possible regulatory matters, the GRC would consider those in light of the current EAS regulatory policy as adopted by the SBE board. Specific to the TV front is the subject of repacking. The GRC is watching closely the progress of the spectrum auction with an eye towards the logistics of moving stations and how SBE, through its membership, may be able to assist in the process in light of the recent FCC phase transition plan. Lastly, we will be looking at filing comments on an issue pertaining to 450 megahertz mentioned by Chris Imlay in his Legal Perspective article in The Signal for this month. I would encourage you to read Chris's article for more details and give us any input that you might have. I would now like to turn it over to SBE General Counsel Chris Imlay for some more updates. Chris?
Thank you, Joe. Good evening. I only have one issue that I wanted to add to Joe's excellent presentation. As you well know, for the last 2 years, we've been working closely with the National Association of Broadcasters and the Department of Defense in an effort to reaccommodate, pursuant to the table of frequency allocations, displaced DoD operations in our 2 gigahertz band. This is perhaps the most challenging frequency coordination effort that we've ever undertaken. The reason is the intense crowding of the 2 gigahertz broadcast auxiliary band by broadcasters, cablecasters, video production companies, and the urgency of the displaced DoD facilities. DoD has to find a new home for tactical radio relay point-to-point microwave facilities. They have to find a new home for low-altitude drones used for military purposes at military bases around the country, and they have to find a reaccommodation spectrum for high-altitude video downlinks. And these are all extremely challenging and difficult uses to reaccommodate. So we're using best efforts to do that. Most recently, DoD has sponsored some tests at Fort Irwin, California. There are scheduled tests of compatibility in around Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And we have a series of working groups and subcommittees that are studying this compatibility issue in detail. The process has gone a little longer than we anticipated, but we have tremendous cooperation from the Department of Defense, and we consider them to be allies rather than intruders into our band. The process is ongoing, and we anticipate the development of a memorandum of understanding sometime within the next 6 or 8 months. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Joe. Chris? The 17 members of the National Board of Directors come from all across the United States. From 13 states, 14 different chapters. They work at radio and television facilities, and several from manufacturers. I have absolutely been honored to work with this dedicated group of volunteers this past year, and I want you to know that each has served the society with your interest and as their primary focus. Please come forward as I introduce you. Serving as our directors this year, Tim Anderson of Covington, Kentucky, who could not be with us this evening, Mark Falick, Lafayette, California, Mike Hendrickson, Lakeville, Minnesota, Chad Kyler, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Jeff Keith, New Bern, North Carolina. Wayne Pacina, College Station, Texas. R.J. Russell, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Marcelo Sanchez, Miramar, Florida. Directors Gary Klein of Atlanta, Ben Brennister of Charlotte, Kevin Plum of Trumbull, Connecticut, and Eric Schechner of Phoenix, Arizona were unable to be in attendance today, along with Tim Anderson of Covington, Kentucky. Serving as our officers this year are our treasurer, Andrea Cummins of Roseland, New Jersey, Secretary Ted Hand, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Vice President Jim Leifer of Boynton Beach, Florida, and our immediate past president, Joe Snelson of Las Vegas, Nevada. All of these directors and officers have contributed tremendously over the past year, and I thank them for their service. So I do want to make one special mention of someone here. Ted Hand, whose term as National Secretary is ending today. Ted has served on the National Board as a Director, National Secretary for 10 of the past 14 years. And we want to express our thanks to him for his leadership and dedication to the SBE over these years. And Ted, we'd like to present to you a special plaque to commemorate your service. You all may return to your seats now. Thank you. The annual election of national directors and officers was conducted earlier this summer. I now invite SBE General Counsel Chris Emblay to come forward and preside over the installation of our new directors and officers.
Thank you, Jerry. This is always a very great privilege for me. I invite the following members elected in August to terms as directors to please join me at the podium. Jim Bernier, Kirk Harnack, Wayne Pacina, Marcelo Sanchez, and J.T. Tucker. And I have to say, Mark Simpson could not be with us today. Gentlemen, you're each about to begin a period of volunteer service as a member of the Board of Directors of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. Please raise your right hands as I administer the oath of office. As a member of the Board of Directors of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, do you promise to follow and uphold its bylaws and canons of ethics, to represent all SBE members, and otherwise fulfill the responsibilities of a member of the Board of Directors to the best of your ability? And if so, please respond by saying, "I will." I will. Congratulations to all of you. Please remain up front as we continue. Jim Leifer and Andrea Cummins, please join us near the podium. I have to say, Tim Anderson couldn't be available today due to a family obligation. You each have been elected by the membership of the Society of Broadcast Engineers to serve the Society for a one-year term as Vice President and Treasurer, respectively. Please raise your right hands as I administer the oath of office. As an officer of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, do you promise to follow and uphold its bylaws and canons of ethics, to represent all SBE members, and otherwise fulfill the responsibilities of your office to the best of your abilities? And if so, please respond by saying, "I will."
I will.
Congratulations to each of you. Please also remain up front. Jerry Massey, would you please join us at the podium? Jerry, you've been elected by the membership of the Society to serve as its president for the coming year, and please raise your right hand as I administer the oath of office. Do you, Jerry Massey, promise to fulfill the responsibilities and duties of the office of President of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, to follow and uphold its bylaws and canons of ethics, to represent all SBE members, and otherwise fulfill the responsibilities of President of the SBE to the best of your ability? And if so, please respond by saying, "I will."
I will.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Jerry. This concludes the induction. I invite Jerry to return to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. I am honored to be elected to serve as the president of the SBE for another year. 6 other directors will begin serving their second year of their 2-year term today, and 5 of those are here with us today. And please join me and the others when I call your name. Mark Falick, Mike Hendrickson, Chad Kyler, Jeff Keith, R.J. Russell, and completing the board is our immediate past president, Joe Snelson. Joe, if you'll join us as well. The group assembled here before you has made the commitment to serve by leading the society. I look forward to working with each of you this next year as we work to provide our members with services and programs that strengthen careers and develop professional relationships. Election to the board means a commitment to work throughout the year, not only at meetings of the board, but in between meetings and by serving as committee chair or committee members. And so at this time, I would like to announce the National Committee Chairs for 2016-2017. And when I introduce you, please raise your hand for your recognition. Awards Committee is going to be chaired by Mike Hendrickson. Bylaws Committee, Chad Kyler. Chapter Liaison Committee, Mark Falick. Education Committee, Wayne Pacina. Finance Committee, Marcella Sanchez. Frequency Coordinating Committee, R.J. Russell. Government Relations Committee, Joe Snelson. Membership Committee, Kevin Plum. Mentoring Committee, Jeff Keith. Nominations Committee, Jim Bernier. Publications Committee, Andrea Cummins. Social Networking, Kirk Harnack. And serving in co-chair positions on our Sustaining Membership Committee will be Mark Simpson and J.T. Tucker. Now, I would ask that Ralph Hogan please come forward and join us. Ralph is continuing his service to the SBE as chair of our certification committee. Also chairing committees are 2 former presidents of the society. Chuck Kelly will continue as chair of the International Committee, and Troy Pennington will continue as well, chairing the Fellowship Committee. My thanks to all of you for these responsibilities for the coming year. Each assignment offers an important opportunity to meet our mission of making the Society of Broadcast Engineers a vital and important part of the professional lives of our members. Thank you, and you may take your seats. This past year, we asked that each chapter send in a nomination for their Engineer of the Year. And we want to recognize some of those winners. From Chapter 17 in Minneapolis, Michael Hendrickson. From Chapter 32 of Tucson, Michael Cole. Chapter 38 El Paso, Owen Smith. In our own Ted Hand, was nominated by Chapter 45 in Charlotte and Chapter 54 in Hampton Roads. And Ron Berlbach, Chapter 70 of Northeast Ohio. And Gary Mock, Chapter 80, Fox Valley, Wisconsin. We congratulate all of those. It's an esteemed honor to be elected as an engineer of your local SBE chapter. One of the things that the SBE is very conscious about, as we have said, is education. And to that end, we are trying to project where we're going with education in the future. This past month, the SBE, with the Ennis Foundation Trust, provided an opportunity for us to do just that. We had a SBE Education Summit at the One World Trade Center in New York City. It was a whole day devoted to looking at technologies of the future and how we are approaching that as a society. The reason is to better provide for the education and certification of you, our members. We spent a whole day with various experts in the fields of radio, television, and other media technologies to determine, are we following the correct path? We think that we have maintained that path very well, and we're going to be looking at the results of our study to better serve you in the future. And we especially want to thank the Ennis Foundation for the opportunity provided to us to perform this study. Now, some of the other things that we have done as a society in the past year. And I think probably as I look back at the past year, one of the greatest things that I can think of is what we did in April at the National Association of Broadcasters Convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. At that point, at that meeting, we announced our new book, the SBE Broadcast Engineering Handbook. It's a hands-on guide for station design and maintenance. You may think, well, that's just a book. Well, you do not realize that it took 5 years, some 50 authors, edited by Jerry Whitaker, and in association with the SBE and McGraw-Hill. It took that to produce this one book. And a special thanks to our publications committee chaired by Andrea Cummins. They made this possible. This was a great handbook. If you don't have that handbook, I strongly suggest you go to the SBE website and order it. It's one of the best reference books I have ever had an opportunity to look at. And that's going back 40 years. So that's our plug for today. But I think that the SBE is devoted to giving you the information you need to succeed. That's what we're about. Now, as we look at our past accomplishments, we have to also look at, well, where are we going in the future? This past weekend, I had the opportunity to spend the weekend with my 4 grandsons. My oldest grandson, 11 years old, Gavin Mitchell of Fort Mill, South Carolina, he wanted to talk to me about what he wants to do. He wants to build robots. But he especially wants to learn how to code a robot to recognize colors. I said, wow, That's planning. Maybe we should be doing that as a society, looking and encouraging future generations to think about taking up the profession that we've all dedicated our lives to. We really need to focus on the future of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, but the industry that we represent. So my challenge to you today would be, as members, encourage others to seek and to learn more about our industry. Promote our society as a method and an opportunity to learn, to grow in that industry. Being certified should be a personal thing. I was talking with someone today about it, and we were talking about certification, and I said, it's a personal thing. Many think that being certified is to prove to an employer that you know something. My take is that you should be certified to prove it to yourself, not to someone else. Prove it to yourself, that you know what you're talking about. I am so honored to work with so many wonderful professionals. And what makes a professional? I think a professional is one who is selfless in this job. We have to be. Some of us are working 24/7, 365 in some very adverse conditions and situations. It takes dedication. And I look in this room today and I see some of the most dedicated people I know in this industry. And as members, you can learn from these fine individuals, from your board of directors, from your officers. You can learn about this industry and how to approach it. So my charge to you today would be focus on the future. Learn more about the new technologies coming out. Rely on the SBE to guide you. Support us as we try to support you. Our membership is going to be a challenge over the coming years. That is due to consolidations, and we're skeptical. We do not know how the TV repack will affect membership in the SBE or the number of qualified engineers in this profession. But the Society of Broadcast Engineers is going to be studying this in this coming year. We're going to be looking at different areas to encourage others in this industry. We have been working to gather information in the past year on an initiative to encourage military personnel returning to civilian life who has the technology background, the training, and of course the drive to enter this industry. We're going to continue that in greater detail in this coming year. That's going to be, in my opinion, one of our major drives. And we're looking forward to your participation as SBE members in making this happen. So this coming year, let's all buckle down and work hard for the industry and for the society. And contact your board members, your officers, myself, with any suggestions that you have. We're open to any suggestion that may come along. We have had some in the past that we hadn't thought about, and I said, that's not a bad idea. It's a good opportunity for us as a society. So, as we come to a close, I want to express my thanks to you here in Columbus, and to those of you watching us on the webcast for attending the annual SBE meeting. A reminder to our audience here in Columbus that the SBE National Awards reception and dinner follow beginning at 5:15 next door in the Crowne Plaza Hotel. We can't leave today without first thanking the SBE members and staff who have handled the technical duties to make this webcast possible. John Cash, John McKinley, John Owen, Chris Shearer, Andrea Comas. And we especially are appreciative to Ron Taylor and the corporation from his station, WSYX-TV here in Columbus, and to SBE past president Vinny Lopez of Syracuse, New York, who served as technical director of today's program. We thank them for all of their volunteer efforts and services. Finally, we want to thank our wonderful sponsors whose financial support made this live telecast possible. And we hope to see you next year at the National SBE meeting, which will be held in Denver, Colorado, in conjunction with the Audio Visual Expo and hosted by SBE Chapter 48. Thank you and good night.
The 2016 SBE National Membership Meeting Netcast is brought to you by the generous financial support of these SBE sustaining members. AC Video Solutions, versatile audio video engineering and consulting services. Blackmagic Design, leading the creative video revolution. DTS HD Radio. HD Radio, a new receiver is sold every 3.5 seconds. Learn more at hdradio.com. DVEO, Digital Video Extraordinaire. Micronet Communications, communications consulting since 1983.